So how many of you guys, for example, today, you're struggling with the Wi-Fi, you're struggling with getting data. It's kind of annoying, right? Yeah, I see your face. I know it took me a while to get logged in as well. So I'm going to introduce you to Eric, it's Giler. Yeah, Eric Giler. He's the chairman and CEO of Speedy Packets in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, Speedy Packets improves the efficiency and performance of TCP, the primary protocol for moving content around the internet. Oh, we've got more people coming in now. This is great. Eric's kind of done a lot in his career. He's been the CEO of Witricity. He was the chairman and chief executive of Groove Mobile. He was the chief executive officer and president of Brook Trout. He has been acquired many times. He's got 20 patents to his name. We have a literal genius on the stage. 20 patents. That's pretty impressive. MBA from Harvard Business School. And then I like to talk about interesting facts about people. So Eric has several motorbikes. He says Harleys and BMWs. And he loves biking. You don't look like a Hell's Angel or anything like that, but and you've biked around the world, is that true?
Everywhere except Antarctica.
Okay.
Although I went there once.
We've got to get you to the penguins, yeah?
That's right.
Bike with the penguins. Okay, with that, Eric is going to talk to you about keep the content coming, faster internet for insatiable demand. Over to you, Eric.
Okay, thank you very much. So it was interesting just sort of watching some of the earlier presentations, both here and other places. The amount of built-in excuses that come into people's presentations because of internet, even here, was kind of remarkable, And we are looking to solve that problem. It's a big problem, by the way. The internet keeps getting used more and more and more and more. Actually, I'm glad that I was able to make a recording of my demonstration, which is underneath here because I wasn't able to get it connected to the internet. So anyway, I'm going to show you actually sort of exactly what we do. But here's the problem, right? Right in the middle there, you see it's been called the spinning wheel of death. I think the New York Times called it that. There have been all kinds of expressions that people have used for this. This is the bane of our existence now as we do more and more things online. And it really doesn't matter, actually, whether it's coming over a cell phone, whether it's coming over wired internet, Wi-Fi, or even satellite links. All of them have this same problem. And by the way, streaming video is probably one of the best ways to demonstrate the problems we're having because actually downloading of videos has become a big, big portion of internet traffic. What most people don't know, or maybe I'm sure some of you do because it's a fairly tech-savvy crowd, this is a measurement actually of our office in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And this is to everybody that ever has complained about their internet to their service provider. We have a cable company in Boston providing our internet. It supposedly is 150 megabits down and 20 megabits up. Pretty fast. It's a commercial service. We pay for it. This is a measurement we made of our internet traffic by doing what we call a smoke ping test, where we sent a signal from our office in Cambridge to downtown Boston, which is probably just a few miles away, and look at the variation over a 10-day period. One of the interesting things that when you actually look at it, this is a wired internet connection. Most people know the internet works by packets. The main protocol used is called TCP/IP, and we're looking at packet loss of almost 5% on average over a 10-day period. By the way, this prompted our VP of engineering to call the cable operator and say, what's going on? This is actually a pretty prevalent scenario pretty much no matter where you are in the world. By the way, you move onto a cell network, the problem gets exacerbated. You go to Wi-Fi, you probably have seen the problem. I think probably everybody in this room has. You go to a satellite link is actually even worse because the satellites that sit at the at what they call a geostationary orbit, ones that are moving around fixed in their relationship to the Earth, it actually takes over half a second to get a request and a response back. And if you lose a packet at 600 milliseconds, the whole internet traffic sort of falls apart. So what a professor, actually she was getting her PhD at MIT a number of years ago, wrote her thesis on a way to actually improve the TCP IP, that's the protocol that does the balance of the vast bulk of internet traffic. And she actually did her thesis on it and ended up getting a job at Caltech as a professor based on that. And then after having worked on it at Caltech for a number of years, said, I'd like to make this my life's work. And that's how Speedy Packets got founded. And in my little bio there at the beginning, the part that they don't tell you is after you've done a few of these companies, my first company I started when we were all children in our 20s, venture capital, and went public, that after that, a lot of the startup companies that come to you have a pretty simple business proposition when they recruit you. They say there's sort of two things. And this is actually what happened at Speedy Packets. I said, that sounds really cool, because I have problems with my internet traffic. And they said, great, how'd you like to be the CEO? And I said, sure, what does that mean? And they said, well, basically you're going to work for free. So you're going to write a check and you have to raise all the money for it. So, welcome to, entrepreneurialism 2 or 3 or 4.0. So anyway, we're actually setting this up. Streaming video is a good way to show it, but it actually is a technology that can work pretty well for any type of internet traffic. So file uploading, downloading, corporate connections, any type of traffic that uses the protocol that's used there. We call it network coding, and I'm not going to give any of you a math lesson here today. But essentially what you can do is put two things somewhere near where people are and somewhere out on the internet, and you can protect big portions of the internet without requiring anything of the end users. Those of you that are math geeks, you could look at this presentation later. I was actually describing this to someone yesterday here at the conference and said, how is it that you can actually correct problems on the internet? And what we do is when a packet gets lost, we're able actually to have sent one that can construct any packet that was lost. And the person I was talking to said, you mean kind of like a digital stem cell? And that actually is a really good analogy. It's kind of like a stem cell. You can create anything that you've lost from the information that's there by the use of this, what's called random linear network coding. So that's a little bit about how it works. Ways in which you could use this, and this is what I'm going to show you, which I have down here underneath here, and I fortunately made a recording of this yesterday, so you'll see. Those of you that are familiar, Apple TV, it's a pretty popular device. It runs Netflix, which is extremely popular. Turns out Netflix actually has a net neutrality video, which I'm going to show you in a moment, which actually shows you how well your internet's working. They tend not to publicize it a whole lot, but it's on there. And what we're doing is we put Speedy Packets here, and it can go in your application, it can go in your access point, it can go in a server connected to where your internet is connected, and then at the remote end, we put some software where we host it. And actually, this software is hosted at Amazon because Amazon Web Services is one of the best implementations for startup companies ever. And this is what I'm going to show you this in a moment, but if you were running side-by-side Apple TVs, what the demonstration will show you is the maximum bit rate that it can output. And if you've ever seen in streaming video, there's sort of 3 basic problems. There's start time. How long does it take to start it up before you get going? You'll see that little wheel spinning around. You'll see adaptive bit rate. and this actually shows, in this example in our office, shows the difference between speed when you have a relatively small amount of delay. So that's what's called 50 milliseconds, the amount of time it takes to get a request back and forth from the internet, and a fairly small amount of packet loss compared to what we had in our office, 1%. And it actually makes a pretty profound difference in the quality of the picture. And the way that the streaming video providers work is they do that actually by transmitting a lower stream. And the third problem that streaming videos have is the dreaded buffer stall, where the thing just freezes and you say, what am I going to do? And some people go and start it again. So there are different ways. By the way, I'm also going to show you how you could upload photos, and I'm going to show you, both of those examples here in a second. And there are all kinds of other applications which I can come back to. But here, what I'm going to start with So let's see. All right. So this is the recording I made of these Apple TVs I've got. It's the main deck of an Apple TV. There are two of them running side by side. This is what I'd call during the daytime when the internet's working reasonably well. So regular and what we call speedy TCP. Now, if you're the owner of the Apple TV, you don't really know any of this is going on. But this is the Netflix net neutrality video that I'm talking about. So what will happen is, and that's Steve, who's our VP of engineering, that's his account. And I'm going to this example, by the way, it's called example short. You can search for it on the internet. You can't actually search for it at Netflix any longer. But what you're going to see is it'll start, when it plays, it'll start playing and then shift its bit rate up and down till it matches what the internet traffic can do, whatever it can handle. So you'll see it starts on both sides at around 1750, that's 1.75 megabits a second. It's got a resolution, now it flipped all the way up to flat out. That's as fast as an Apple TV can go. You'll see the speedy ones working faster, but if you were watching this, you would think that was fine. The resolution of your television is 1080p, and the pixel aspect ratio, which is the amount of smearing that goes on in the pixels, but that's when everything is fine. So we actually called and spoke to Netflix and said, what happens to you at night? And they said, we see 100 milliseconds of round trip time, in other words, about a tenth of a second delay back and forth, and we start to see packet loss that approaches 5%. So let's go watch TV again. Same video, but let's do it at nighttime with 5% packet loss in 100 milliseconds. And what you're going to see is sort of what, on the left-hand side, what we get, and what you could get if this software were just installed locally and you picked up our server at Amazon. It'll say start it from the beginning, and you're going to see two of the three phenomenons I talked about. First is start time. See how quickly Speedy started. That guy, he'll start eventually, and he'll start shifting up in speed as he accommodates sort of better things. But look what happened when it came up. It's running, if you can even read that, it says 235 kilobits a second versus 5.8 megabits. So it's basically running, by coding the network differently with this software, it's running 20 times faster, which is kind of amazing when you think about it. Let's talk about the other side of this, which is the internet is bidirectional. And let's go to upload. So here are two iPads. I don't know if any of you are familiar with this application called Shutterfly, but the iPad on the left is connected just to the regular internet. It's still the nighttime scenario. The right time's connected to Speedy. So they're two separate access points. And we'll start up the Shutterfly application on both sides. And then upload, and I put the same pictures on both iPads to make it a perfect apples on apples comparison. And what you'll see is, as you select it, So just take 5 pictures here. And then say, let's upload it, and we'll see what happens. So what you'll see is the little disk spins until the picture's uploaded, then it goes clear. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is side by side, and look at that. None of them have even completed yet. And that, unfortunately, is sort of what most of us deal with in the world, and this is what the promise of actually making changes to the way internet traffic works can do for you. So anyway, that's kind of it. I have a couple more slides that showed this, where it's interesting, the first test installation that we're doing is in one of the worst scenarios possible, and that's on a cruise ship. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever been on a cruise, but what do you think the #1 complaint on a cruise ship is? It's not getting motion sick, it's not the food, it's not the drinks, it's internet access. And actually, I had occasion to observe this, and you watch the first day of a cruise, there's a line of people waiting to talk to the poor guy in the IT department to say, how do I connect my device? Maybe sort of a sad state on, commentary on society, but it actually is a really difficult problem to solve. And that's an area where, by doing the hardest problem first, we should be able to implement this for others at some point in the future. So anyway, that's what I had to say today. Thank you very much, and look forward to meeting many of you at the conference this afternoon.
Thank you.